This episode is brought to you by Whitney Cummings and her brilliant comedy quote, "Comedy is just a deep obsession with injustice. What do you think is not fair in the world? Okay, take that and write about it." Boom!
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, my people.
Hello, my people. ¿Cómo están, damas y caballeros? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, where I welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to Season 2, Episode 53. What? The first 50 episodes were amazing. I learned a lot. You learned a lot. We had outstanding guests. And now we want your feedback. Who do you think should be on the podcast? How should we improve the podcast? Should we include more vulnerability, more rapid-fire questions, more comedy, more Spanish-speaking episodes, more English episodes, more athletes, more coaches, more CEOs? We want your feedback. Like my friend Michelle Falcon always says, we are desperate for your feedback. So, send us a DM to me at Stephan Dyer on Instagram or email us to the Stephan Dyer podcast at gmail.com, and we'll incorporate your feedback into every episode. Here's to another 50 episode, damas y caballeros. Talking about this episode, oh my god, this episode with Bernardo Urbina was hot fire. My childhood friend, and Bernardo Urbina is my childhood friend, and this episode was just an excellent reminder that you can do good in the most negative of circumstances. Also, that you can milk a joke for over an hour. I think I milked that Alibaba joke more than I should have, but hey, you'll be the judge. Maybe you'll laugh every single time I do. Every single time I do. You'll see what I'm talking about. But who is Bernardo Urbina, you may be thinking? Well, originally from Costa Rica, Bernardo Urbina is an award-winning furniture designer who upcycles and transforms overlooked material into carefully designed high-end furniture. Bernardo studied industrial design at the Pratt Institute in New York City and continued his career and studies in New York, Milan, and later in the Philippines. Considered by many to be the mecca for furniture productions. In the Philippines, he worked as a senior designer for prestigious Filipino designer Vito Selma. Fun fact, interesting fact, in fact, extraordinary fact. Bernardo was in the Philippines during Typhoon Haiyan, which destroyed several parts of the country. In the midst of such a disaster, Bernardo, in 2015, by the way, developed Tacloban Prevails, a furniture line that partners with victims of the Typhoon Haiyan to give their scrap wood new life. That was probably my favorite part of the episode. It's like beautiful what Bernardo did in the Philippines. In addition to his studies and his experience in the Philippines, we also talk about his learnings as an entrepreneur, Tisu Farm, one of his ventures with his fiancée Aurelia, Costa Rica Mill, that made me laugh a lot, but it's brilliant, and my favorite, Santos Schooly, the incredible bus-turned-Airbnb in the middle of nowhere that has become an extraordinary tourist attraction in Costa Rica. Bernardo currently resides in Sabalito, Costa Rica. Where is that? That is Sabalito is in Guanacaste, in Costa Rica, where he continues to explore material treatment methods of wood, metal, and rope that drives him to evolve and create progressively. You know what? I just love Bernardo's spirit. Entrepreneurial spirit. The guy and his fiancée Aurelia are always like quietly up to something, and then to another thing, and then to another thing. And what I love the most is that everything they do, be it at Tisu Farm, Costa Rica Mill, Bernardo Urbina Design, Santos Schooly, the bus, it's always a reflection of who they are. They are super authentic, and they always mean well. If you like this episode, which you will, share it anywhere, everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitter, Grindr, WhatsApp, high five, ICQ, Casa, anywhere. Give us a review. 5 stars. We love it. Screenshot it on your Instagram stories and tag us at Stephan Dyer and at Bernardo _Urbina _design. Quick reminder that you can also, as you're listening to the podcast, you can now see it on video. You can watch it on video, not just on YouTube, but on Spotify video podcasts. Shout out to the amazing editing skills of our editor, Carlos Bolivar, and to my producer and wife, Narceli Guevara. All right, my friends, let's get it started. He's an incredible entrepreneur, furniture designer, Alibaba ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this episode with Bernardo Urbina like I know you will. In 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast. I have here the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable, my childhood friend, Bernardo Urbina. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. I'm very good. Well, it's really cold here in Toronto. How are things in Sabalito? Is it cold, warm?
It's warm and windy.
What's warm and windy like? Maybe 18 degrees Celsius?
No, like 23, 24.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And it's good wind to go kite surfing. We have the lake here 5 minutes away. So whenever we get a chance, we just go.
Oh my God. Sabalito has a special place in my heart because like, what year was this? 2017, I think, December.
Around that, yeah.
We've been childhood friends for the longest time because we went to the same school as kids, and you let us stay at your place in Sabalito for a couple of days in December 2017, I think. And I went with my girlfriend, now wife, Narcen. We stayed, but we didn't know that you had 2 dogs outside of your house that didn't recognize us, and one of them was like a pit bull. And then what the craziest thing is, we forgot the keys inside. We got locked out of the house. This was like a Tuesday at like 1 a.m. that we got to your place, and you guys were in Amsterdam at the time, I think, and we didn't know what to do, so we had to like rob the place. We had to like break a window as the pit bull stared at us, and there was nobody around. Like, the pit bull could have killed us, and nobody would have known for days, maybe. Luckily, the pit bull didn't hurt us. We managed to be there. We drove to Rio Celeste. We drove to Arenal. We drove to lots of places, and turned out to be a really good vacation. But and then we were inside after like robbing the place to be able to go inside. I mean, we didn't like break a window. It was like a small celosía, like, but as we're in, we were so nervous because it was like 2 hours for us to be able to break in, and we were having a beer, and then we just out of nowhere, like the loudest, like, we're like, what's going on? Me and my Narcen and I jumped, and we were screaming, and we didn't know what it was. And it was like these geckos,
Yeah.
What are they called in Spanish?
Geckos.
Yeah, geckos. And but you'd think that, how can a gecko, like a small little gecko lizard, have a loud sound? Dude, it's so loud. And my wife was so scared that we had to sleep for like the 3 days with the lights on. She was so scared of the geckos. I mean, I jumped as well with the first time, but here we are, my friend. Thank you for letting us stay at your place.
Anytime.
And then a year or 2 later, you came to Toronto. Yeah, with your girlfriend, and you stayed with us as well, and we actually went to Toronto Island. So happy that our friendship has we've been able to maintain the friendship. Although I moved out of Costa Rica when I was 10, so basically but we've been able to maintain it. And for the longest time, I've been a big fan of what you do. Everybody, I don't care what you're doing, but you have to go into Bernardo's Instagram and check out these masterpieces that he does with wood. But we're gonna go get into it. So Bernardo Urbina is a designer who fell in love with upcycling waste material into thoughtful design products. So if I had to put it into words, like if I explained it to a 10-year-old, you get wood that could be trash, but you grab it. And I think that's what upcycling means. You grab it and then you design it. It's not like you're cutting trees for no reason and then making the furniture. You grab pieces of wood that would otherwise go to, I don't know, the garbage, and you turn them into incredible furniture. Is that what upcycling means?
Yeah, I mean, it's upcycling. You can upcycle anything. We focused on wood material, but it's finding overlooked wood that the common wood industry wouldn't use because of its shape and form. So the wood industry basically likes wood planks that are straight, that are solid, that have no holes in it. So we prefer the organic shape wood that won't be good for construction, because the wood industry is mainly construction and furniture is just like a small part of it. So we grab that overlooked material and we design around the piece to create use for it.
Yeah, man. It's impressive because for our wedding, you gave us some really beautiful chairs that we still have, obviously. And on your Instagram, you sometimes have these reels, these videos, or like the chronological order in which you get the wood and then you turn them into beautiful pieces. So I know that I just said it already, but go on Instagram, Bernardo_Urbina_design, or you can just click on the show notes on the Instagram of Bernardo, so you can kind of appreciate as we're talking about this. Before we go into the specifics of the upcycling and the design, I want to know where this passion started, because the majority of our friends, or in Latin America, in fact, the majority of my friends here, they go into, like, I don't know, law, engineering, banking that I did for many years, marketing, sometimes fitness. How did you discover this passion, and what did you study in university that led to this?
That's a broad question. I'll see how I can answer it. Let's see. I remember when I was a kid, I would like to take things apart just to see how things were built and working. So I remember once I took a old TV with one of those that had like this big hood on the back, and I just like took it apart. And my idea was to just place it cut a hole in the wall and place it into the wall, so I wouldn't see that big back on the. We'll have like a flat screen, right?
Yeah, a flat screen, but with like a refrigerator microwave of a TV, pretty much.
And then putting all that back together was always a mess. Sometimes it came really well and sometimes it didn't. But that curiosity of how things work, I think, led me to study first product design in Costa Rica. I was studying there for a year before I transferred to Pratt Institute in New York to finish with industrial design. While I was in New York, I learned that there is many branches of industrial design. You can do car design, shoe design. You can do furniture design, which is the one that I focused on. So there's a lot of studio design classes that you can take for you to get your specialty in. So I did furniture. I was always into wood, having like Costa Rica many wood species here. It just made sense for me, and I just felt comfortable working with wood, and that's slowly how I went into furniture.
I know that you ended up living in Italy for a while as well. Was that related to design?
Yeah. After my graduation, I worked in New York for a bit.
Yeah.
I ended up, what I thought was my dream job was designing furniture in Soho when I was a student.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Why? Why wasn't it the dream job?
I don't know. I thought it was, but when I was actually there, it wasn't. I wasn't fulfilled. So I ended up quitting and moving to Italy to pursue a master's degree in industrial design for architecture.
Nice. And how was living in Europe? Was it really, really cool? Was Italy what you thought it was going to be?
Europe in general was amazing. It was an incredible experience. Living in Milan was a great opportunity because it's very central in Europe. So you can get flight tickets to basically any country fairly inexpensive and getting there quite fast. So I got to see a lot of Europe.
And did you end up learning a little bit of Italian or no?
Yeah, I took actually Italian classes at Pratt Institute.
Oh, wow.
I took a year of Italian.
Did everybody call you Bernardi or no? They called you Bernardo.
You just call me Bernardo.
Okay. And this is like the main part that I enjoy about your story, because when I went to Costa Rica to do a comedy festival, we spent like a whole night talking about the Philippines. I remember like just laughing so hard about all the stories that you had in the Philippines. But more than that, I was super interested because, first of all, why the Philippines? And it turns out that you managed to be there. I don't know if during, but definitely for the aftermath of a typhoon, which then led you to do something incredible for the community. So can you elaborate a bit of your journey in the Philippines and why you got there in the first place?
Yeah. So when I was living in Italy, I met some Filipinos through the master's program. And I told them what I did, my background, that I was in furniture. And they mentioned that Philippines is really big in furniture production, which I had no idea back then. We're talking like an island, Cebu City, just the whole economy revolves around building furniture. And
Wow.
that's because English is a second official language in Philippines. So a lot of US companies work with Philippines because of the language. There's no language barrier. Even the taxi driver speaks English. So
it's
I
like
applied,
a Filipino English, though,
yeah,
right?
Filipino English, but English nonetheless. They won't answer you in Tagalog.
Nice.
So I applied for some furniture job positions there, and I got a offer to be a senior designer for a company in Philippines. So decided to take it and see where it went.
What year was this that you initially went there?
What was that?
What year did you initially arrive in the Philippines?
2013. Yes.
And was that during Typhoon
2012.
Haiyan? Is that how you pronounce it? Typhoon
Haiyan.
Haiyan?
That
Was it during or right after?
right before.
Wow.
Right before. We moved to Philippines. I say we because I met Aurelia, my current fiance, on the way to Philippines in Greece, and she moved there with me. And I arrived in August and she arrived in September. Typhoon Haiyan hit late October or November of that year of 2013.
And you were there. Were there parts of the Philippines that didn't get hit? Were you in a part that got massively hit? What was that experience like?
So Cebu is surrounded by islands. Philippines is 7,000 islands.
Wow.
And it hit first Tacloban, which is further out to the open sea. And then it hit Cebu, but just the northern part. Luckily, where Cebu City is, it didn't get hit as strong. It felt that it was like a big rainfall, like a Costa Rican rainfall for like 2 days or 3 days. There wasn't any electricity, little bit of running water, so that we were basically without communication with the rest of the world for 2 days.
Wow.
Later, when everything dried up, we saw where Tacloban is, and it was just basically destroyed. There were like shipping ships right on rice fields, right on towns. There were like 7 shipping ships scattered throughout Tacloban Island. And it was crazy. People it was just insane how strong that storm was.
And at that point, you were doing furniture production. You were working in the furniture. And when this happened, how did your game plan change in terms of your career aspirations or what you were currently doing there in terms of furniture and design?
So my job was for 6 months, my job offer. This was already maybe month number 4 in December. And seeing how all the NGOs came to help Philippines, the Philippine government wasn't doing anything to help their people. A lot of the help came from private companies inside Philippines.
Wow.
I found an opportunity where I could keep doing what I love and help the people of Tacloban at the same time, which was buying debris and scrap wood from the survivors, document the whole process, transform it into one-of-a-kind pieces of furniture. We did a gallery event to sell that furniture. And then once the furniture was sold, we gave 10% of the proceeds to the affected Filipino we bought the debris from.
Wow.
And that was like our first, when we decided not to renew our contract with this company, that's like the first collection we made. Just to see how we can help some few people doing things that I love. And we never expected to have such a positive impact in the Filipino society that we got invited by the government to the furniture show in Manila. And we ended up in the first night of our first gallery, we sold 90% of the items.
Wow.
And 2 months from that night, we had an invitation for the furniture show. So we had to run back to Tacloban and do another collection to have items to show for the furniture show because we had sold out.
And how many days away was the furniture show from the time that you got the call?
Like a month and a half.
And that was like not enough time. Like you had to scramble to get all these things done, right?
Yeah. It was fast.
What kind of products? What kind of products was it? Like the designs that you were doing? Was it chairs? Was it nightstands? Was it dinner tables? What kind of things did you do in your first collection?
It was coffee tables, console tables, lights, mirrors, cutting boards, and coasters. Yeah.
It's amazing. And how many pieces were there in the first collection? Like 40, 80?
No, this was more, it's all custom made. So it takes more time to produce them. It were like 15 to 20 pieces per collection.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And And after you got that call, how did you were like, whoa, this is I wasn't expecting this. Were you like, I'm gonna stay here for another couple of years and see where this takes us so that I can contribute to the community? And I love the Philippines, or what was the next step?
Yeah, we were happy with the Philippines. Life there is simple. It's comfortable. You're basically in paradise because of 7,000 islands. And we were seeing such a positive response from the Filipino community and the rest of the world. We just kept going and doing more collections as we were selling them. We were getting featured every month throughout the 3 years on 2 different news media. Eventually, we got picked up by the New York Times, and that gave us a big boost. It helped us display our furniture in the Italian furniture show in Milan.
And you ended up going? You had to bring all the furniture to Milan. And what was the reception like there? What did people say? Bernardi, this is beautiful. This is like 2014, 15?
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, around there. 2014, 15. Can't remember exactly what year, but it was April of one of those. And the people really liked the furniture, the designs. They weren't, for them, the Typhoon was too far away. Like they felt they had no connection to the Typhoon.
Mm-hmm.
They liked the idea of the upcycling, but in Asia, people that were affected by the Typhoon, that lived through the Typhoon, had a closer connection and had a closer sentimental value to the items that they were purchasing. Each item carried a picture of the survivor holding the debris before the transformation.
Oh,
and the name
beautiful.
of the piece, it was the name of the person we bought the debris from. So it would be like Grace coffee table, for example. And then you'll have Grace holding the debris in a picture that came with the item.
That's incredible. I have a quick question about wood, because I always think about this and I never know how these things are made. So if my apartment door is wooden and it's probably 8 feet tall by 3 or 4 feet, I guess, wide, is that wood like the entire shape of the door? Is that cut perfectly from inside a tree that is bigger, or do they ¿cómo se dice? Como que cuando
Laminated?
They como que rajan el árbol, they just go like, and then they build the door perfectly by that shape.
So there's 2 types of doors. You can do solid hardwood doors. That is what we do. And those you buy, for example, 6 by 2 inch boards, solid boards that you plane, and then you get a perfect straight board plank of 2 by 6, and you use that to make like the frame around the door, and then you put wood panels in the center. It is a solid piece of wood in that design. If it's particle board, or there's like cheaper doors that you can go to Home Depot and prefab doors, then those are way lighter. Those you use like compressed wood. Yeah. Okay. And that was my question. So you can compress. You could. What's the verb to say like you like, you know, when you put carrots through the carrot thing? Yeah, the grinder.
The grinder. You can grind wood and then you can put it in the shape that you want, but it's obviously maybe lower quality.
Yeah, it's a particle board. There's also MDF, which stands for medium density fiber.
Okay.
And they grab fibers of different wood and they compress them together, but it looks like carton basically.
Oh, I get
And
it.
all these woods or types, they're not wood, all these types of material, most of them, if you put a little bit of water, they just inflate and they're not
Oh,
waterproof.
I
There
get it.
are now they have, like, for kitchens, for example, there are particle boards that are waterproof, but they're much more expensive.
I get it. When thank you for answering my existential question on just looking at my
Now,
door
now
for
you can
6
sleep at
hours
night.
every day. Yeah. But I'm like, then I feel bad because I'm like, I don't want I feel like I'm killing trees for no particular reason. And this has to be like a big, big tree for us to be able to perfectly get that door. Like, this is a big, like, doors are big, you know? But
Yeah,
going
well,
back,
I mean, there is ways that you can sustainably harvest trees, right? Costa Rica is one of the few countries in the world that has reforest in the past 25 years, has grown more trees than it has cut down.
really?
Yeah, like in the 70s or 60s, Costa Rica was 75% of the land was forests. By 1980, 1985, it went down to 25% of the land. So we
What?
cut down 50% of the forest in Costa Rica. And it was a mess. Like, it was unregulated. People were just cutting how they wanted, wherever. And in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, regulation came into place. And the president back then made the national parks
Wow.
law. So he established certain areas as national
Protected.
parks. Yeah. And they would become protected forever. Now you can't build anything in them. And that helped the reforestation.
Yeah.
He also gave incentives for big companies. Instead of paying income tax at the end of the year, if they bought land and did reforestation, they would get subsidized that income tax. So
Wow.
it was like a big incentives for them. They would get tax breaks.
Yeah, I feel like Costa Rica is always at the forefront of many of these things. And there's a big sense of pride in terms of protecting the land, the national parks, protecting tourism, protecting the animals. And I really like that. I mean, obviously I haven't lived there since I'm 10, but I was born there. I go back there a lot, and I always feel proud of that. When you look back to your Philippines experience, was there like a story or you talking to somebody and they, after you gave them the proceeds or when you bought the wood or when they saw the final collection, any like testimonials that really hit hard, that you really cherish? Any stories that you can share?
Well, when we purchased the wood, we never told them what it was for. We asked them if we saw like a debris just thrown out there. We asked them who it was and if we could purchase it. Some people were like, "Here, just take it for free," and we're like, "No, we want to give you money for it. Like, it's yours. We want to like make like for you to benefit out of this transaction also." One reason we didn't tell them what we were doing, we didn't want to create false expectations because we didn't know at that moment what or if we were going to use that debris for. And two, we don't want them to start tearing down their houses and offering things that they're actually using.
Yeah, that's big.
Oh,
you're buying this? Yeah, very smart. Very smart to do that.
So we just went around browsing, looking. We hired a local driver at the island, and he'll like take us around, and we'll just like pack like this open pickup van with like random things, like just anything we found interesting. We were walking around the island with a camera, documented everything. And there's like videos of how devastated the island was, and you could see like how weird, like they were always happy, like they were so happy to see us, like just
Really?
joking around in the middle of like just destruction. And they were just like super nice people, super friendly. We've never met any other culture or country that is so foreigner friendly, and they will just come up and talk to you. In the 3 years that I was there, I never felt insecure and walking through the slums or whatever. It was like
incredible.
an incredible experience for sure.
Were there any things that you were like, this is a little weird for a country? Anything quirky about the Philippines? Anything weird? Anything that you and Aurelia were like, this is a this is a little weird of how things work here or how we're being treated?
So, I mean, there are tons of stories, but one of the things that, for me at least, that caught my attention up to today, Philippines has been invaded by the Spaniards, and then the US took over. So it's always like been influenced by other cultures heavily, right? The Spaniards, when they first arrived, they were really indigenous people in the islands.
Yeah.
And a lot of Filipino words are Spanish words.
Oh yeah, and last names also very Spanish last names.
Right. But the words are Spanish. All the words that are Spanish in Philippines are objects or things that they didn't have before the Spaniards arrived.
Wow.
So you have esquina, like they didn't have corners. They had the concept of corners didn't exist to them. They had no word for corners, so they call it esquina. Then escuela, there was no schools for kids. Like established institute known as a school, they didn't have one. But one thing that amazes me, they did have a way to count. So they count their shirts, they count objects in their own language. But anything that is currency, they count it in Spanish.
What?
So just currency. If you're just talking about currency, you'll say like 100 pesos, 1500, 250, 75. But if you're counting shoes and you're not buying them, you count it in Tagalog. Like it's not in Spanish. So for me, that was like mind blowing that they have two separate number systems. One for payments and one just for everyday counting.
One thing I've never understood, and I think I asked you this years ago when we were having this talk, is I have heard Filipinos say, because in fact, where I live here in Toronto, there's a lot of Filipinos in the Bathurst and Shepherd area, Bathurst and Wilson area. There's a lot of Filipinos, and I've heard them say the Philippines, not the Philippines, but the Philippines. And I never, are we saying it wrong? Because the name is with an F or a PH. But why are they saying Philippines instead of Philippines?
Because they don't pronounce the F. They say five.
They say five instead of five.
Yes.
But why don't they? I mean,
they don't. It's just in their culture. They don't pronounce the F sound. They put it as a P sound.
But do they not have an F in the alphabet? In their alphabet? Or it's just a thing where
I think they do have an. I think they do have an F because they write it five, but they pronounce five.
It's a special culture. I love it. There's a lot of things. And what about the standard of the cost of living? I mean, how much would it cost to rent an apartment? How much would it cost maybe like food for a month? Transportation?
So, I mean, this is a third world country. And the social gap is huge.
Yeah.
It's just massive. So the middle class is almost none. Thankfully, it's growing. Like the social gap I felt when I left, it was growing. The middle class was getting stronger. But you have 100 billion people living in Philippines.
100 million.
Yeah, 100
Wow.
million people living in Philippines is tons. Just in the city that I was in, or in the island, was 4 million back then. So that was like the size of Costa Rica.
That
Just
is
to
insane.
put things in perspective.
And is that island smaller than Costa Rica?
By size, yes.
How much like in terms of size, how much bigger is the Philippines than Costa Rica?
Well, the Philippines is spread out in 7,000 islands.
Okay.
So the
So
land
we
area
can't really
is
do the math.
right.
So the math isn't that easy.
So, but it's very congested, right? And there is a big lower class and a small upper class. And for rent, it's really hard because you can either find huge mansions that are expensive, which pools and 5 bedrooms and whatnot. And then you go to the other extreme and it's like this shack with no door and a curtain. And it's like, how do you get like the in between? And luckily we were able to find a townhouse. It had, I think it was the biggest house I've lived in up until then, like that I've rented. It was 3 bedroom and 2.5 bathroom, 2 floor. And it was $300.
What?
$400.
That's
and then
incredible.
So Aurelia took one of the bedrooms and converted it into a walk-in closet because why not?
Yes.
And so we ended up having 2 additional bedrooms and 2 bathrooms available, which we placed on Airbnb. And we just got
and you paid for the rent.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just like a steady income there.
Passive income.
Yeah.
Nice. And after the Philippines experience, you go back to Costa Rica. And how do you go from, okay, I did this in New York, I did this in Italy, I was doing learning, I go through to the Philippines where I endured this insane, extraordinary natural disaster that I was able to at least turn some negative into positive. You appear in the headlines in the news regularly, you get featured in the New York Times. And then you come back to the motherland where, yes, there's a lot of, obviously, wood, but do you know other people that were doing what you're doing, or did you have to start this business from scratch where you're probably the only one that's doing this? What was your experience like coming back to Costa Rica and starting Bernardo Urbina Design locally now?
So it was interesting because there was like a transition.
Yeah.
As we were deciding to relocate back to Costa Rica, we got contacted by an interior designer in Costa Rica who thought I was based in Costa Rica asking for furniture. So we actually sold and built our first piece while being in Philippines. And when we arrived to Costa Rica, we arrived to install it.
Wow.
So
and she still didn't know that you weren't living in Costa Rica, or by that time?
No, she did. No, when she contacted him, I was like, hey, listen, let's say it was April. I'm not in Costa Rica right now, but we are relocating back to Costa Rica by August. I'll be there. We can design this. Like, I don't need to be in Costa Rica to design this or to make it. We can start coordinating everything. I can send you drafts for the base and you can start making it based on the technical drawings that I sent, and you'll just do the metal base and I'll take care of the wooden part, so that when I come, we can just install the wood part with your base. And it was like this big conference table made out of railway tiles that we salvage from Incofer.
Nice.
And it turned out amazing. It has a glass in between the railway tiles. So the transition was quite smooth. We didn't have to come here and do marketing and try to get projects, but we arrived with a project. And that just led on to more projects.
Oh man, that's good, because when you're an entrepreneur and a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, they can be incredible at what they do, at the technical skill set, but sometimes in order to sell, it requires another skill set. In order to market it, it requires another skill set. Like probably a lot of entrepreneurs feel more comfortable doing their craft, the technical skill, than posting it on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Because that's another skill, like marketing and promoting and selling is another skill. Where do you feel that you're most comfortable, and where do you feel that you had to kick it up a notch to make sure that the business continued to thrive as you moved into Costa Rica?
Finding the right woodworker, because I can't do everything, right? I have to outsource.
Exactly.
And for me, outsourcing sales and marketing, it's like I'm the face of my brand. It's like the identity, basically.
Yeah.
So outsourcing marketing and sales, it's like giving my identity to someone else. And I don't feel comfortable someone else handling that aspect. So I had to find someone that would be really good in woodworking, so that I can focus on the design and the sell and marketing of the whole furniture.
And when it comes to the process of designing, because I'm not a designer, you do it on computer first, or is also always in your head? When you sent the industrial design, the interior designer, the person who contacted you initially, and you sent them, is it a drawing? Is it a drawing on computer? Are you designing on architecture software?
So
what's the process before the masterpiece?
Depends on the project. There are certain things that will be form-based. That means like I have an object already established, because there's a debris that's existing that I can't reproduce. So we design around that object. Or if it's a table, then there is certain parameters that we have to follow, right? We can't just make a weird shaped table, because it won't make sense to sit around. But the creative part starts always on paper, and we start like sketching different ideas, maybe like 20 to 30 different ideas, and just try to, even stupid things that would never end up happening, just to get the creative flow going. After that, we look at everything like from a step back and see like similarities between each other, and try to put them in groups of these designs look similar, and we have maybe 3 different groups, sets of 10 of each one, and see what we like about each one and how we can combine the things that we like into a specific design that we eventually turn into a computer, because putting in the computer takes longer than just doing a sketch. We use Fusion 360, which is a CAD program that creates technical drawings that will eventually be sent to the client or to interior designer for them to actually analyze and see sizes and scales. And we can put texture in the program. So we take pictures of the wood and we can put the actual wood in the render. We have a 3D camera, a 3D scanner, so we can scan the debris, or if it has like a weird shape, a root or something, and put that in the program, and we can cut it in the program before we even cut it in real life, just for demonstration purposes.
That's incredible. I had no idea. It's just like stand-up comedy. No, but really, in many ways, when you're talking about just creating stuff that'll never make it, it's the same. You write jokes that'll never make it on stage, but you have to create these jokes. You have to write it. You have to go through the things that'll never make it to the stage so that you get to the ones that make it to the stage. And you just get into this flow state of creating. But it's very hard to be creative if all you're doing is editing yourself and like, no, this is dumb. No, this is dumb. No, this is dumb. You have to be willing to fail to create the good parts. And then when it comes to, for example, creating a collection, in my case, a stand-up comedy special, I'll have jokes that are about Daddy Yankee, and then I'll have a joke about dogs, and then I'll have a joke about kids, and then I'll have a joke about music, and then I'll have a joke about forests, and then I'll have a joke about avocados, and then I'll have a joke about Don Omar or Bad Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like, oh, here's a pattern. I have Daddy Yankee, I have music, and I have Bad Bunny. So now I'll put that in like a semi-collection where I'll throw those jokes together on the topic of music or reggaeton.
Right.
And then I'm grouping. I actually had my comedy special page here that I was looking at yesterday for no apparent reason. So I'll just show you because it may be really cool for our listeners who are actually seeing this on Spotify, because now Spotify has videos. So look at the page. So these jokes, the sections are trabajo, reggaeton, inglés, mujeres, me casé, so marriage, work, dating, reggaeton, Venezuelans, intro, so and learning English.
Right.
So under each of these sections, Venezolanos, I got married, dating, work, reggaeton, and English, those are the big topics. But under those, I have 6 or 7 jokes. But because I grouped them, it's easier to show the collection. It's easier to show people. But behind this hour of comedy, there's like tens or hundreds of hours of failed jokes, but you can't get to the good ones unless you write the bad ones, So I'm not putting my jokes into a 3D model, but it's very similar, the creation process. I know that you tried to, you flirted with the idea of doing Amazon for your products. What was the learning and the experience of putting your products on Amazon?
Wow, that was intense. We were living in the Philippines, and right now, like Amazon, it's huge. Back then, it was starting to grow, like the private labeling. So we started. There was a podcast that we were following to learn how to put products on Amazon, because it's a whole master's degree to do it. And the idea came because we thought, okay, we'll put products on Amazon and we'll have a passive income while living in the Philippines. We can just have this business growing remotely in paradise, living the life. Why not?
Yes.
So me and Aurelia started listening to this guy explain on his podcast all the steps of how to put the products on Amazon. I don't know, it was like 3 months. We would travel to Cambodia and we'll be listening to the podcast and doing research and whatnot. And having the background of industrial design, I wanted to complement all this research that we were getting and all this information and adding value with the education that I've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast, what it was saying is just buy a product in China, put a label on it, and sell it on Amazon. Okay, well, that's great, but you're not adding any value to it. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to include a story around these products.
Yeah.
And that's how this collection of dream leaders came, where we would do art projects with kids about an issue surrounding their society, explain to them what was happening. Then we do a art workshop, and with those drawings, we would grab elements that we would use as graphic designs to put into the products that will eventually be sold on Amazon. And some of the proceeds would go back, not to the kids, but to the issue that was talked about in the workshop, so that they would see how they could also help the society around them, and that they don't need to always just receive, but they can do some action to help the problem that is in their neighborhood.
That's amazing.
We were able to place our products on Amazon, and we got everything. We got samples from China and things like, we did computer sleeves. We got some samples, and the computer didn't even.
Oh, yeah, I got your computer sleeve for my Mac.
Yeah, so like to get that one, we had to like get samples from different productions in China, sent to Philippines, try it on. Some samples were just disgusting. So how to see which productions were good and which ones were bad. And then you had to make a volume order to put it on Amazon, because they won't put X amount.
Yeah.
So
how many? Like 100, 1,000?
Like 2,000 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we shipped it to Amazon. What we didn't count on Amazon, or the reason why we decided to pull out our products from Amazon, was it was too expensive to keep the things on Amazon. So you have to pay for storage fees. And the storage fees will depend on the size of your product. This is only if you want Amazon to fulfill the order. So you can qualify. If they do fulfill the order, then you qualify to be Amazon Prime, because they already have the product with them. So it's easier for them to ship. So if you want to be on Amazon Prime, you have to pay storage fees. Then you have to pay for ads, because Amazon is a huge catalog, right? If you don't pay for ads, then you will just be down in the library and no one will find you. You'll be on page 54 of when you type computer sleeves.
Yeah.
So you have to pay for ads, and for keywords, in this case, computer sleeves. So someone types computer sleeves, sees the product, buys it, then you start qualifying organically for that specific keyword that you're buying. So then you have the whole email campaign afterwards set up, so that once you buy it, you need a review. So there's like all these different costs that you start building up. So like in the first 2 or 3 years, if you just break even to buy more products and keep it in Amazon, you're basically giving the products out for free and not receiving any income. You're doing well.
What?
So it's because if you stop your ads, which is the major cost, then your listing will just go down and just get hidden in the library.
Yeah. So how did it go?
For us?
Yeah.
As long as we were paying for ads, we were selling the products. But sometimes we paid more ads than the income we received. It didn't make any sense. It's like, what business is this? Like, I'm paying ads to Amazon, and then the client is paying Amazon. It's like, really? I have to pay Amazon for the client to see my product, for them to pay Amazon again? And I'm like, no, dude, this doesn't make any sense.
So you stopped it.
Yeah.
And how many years were you doing this?
I think it took us like 2.5 years from start to finish.
Wow. And
like the
now,
learning curve. But I mean, I didn't have the time to dedicate to grow the business, and we learned a lot on dealing with China suppliers.
yeah,
So
that's pretty important.
definitely, I don't regret it at all because I can confidently go on Alibaba and order stuff and talk to them. And we just ordered, for example, my family has a dairy farm, and we needed mini cargador. I think it's like a forklift, but it's not a forklift. And we went on Alibaba and we found like a company. We did some research, and instead of paying 5 times what it cost in the States, we bought it in China, and they shipped it over. And
Wow.
the same for machineries, like for the yogurt, we just purchased a yogurt filler, and they're flying it. It arrives next month. So
Yeah. When I remember when I went to your house with my wife, Aurelia had a yogurt production, and it was delicious. How has Tisu Farm evolved, and what are you guys doing these days when it comes to yogurt?
So yeah, we are trying to push the yogurt as much as we can, and now last year we were able to place it in stores. So we are
Wow.
doing we're delivering it to stores in Nosara, and we offer home delivery every Sunday in San Jose. Before it was every other week, and
And this is Greek yogurt?
Greek yogurt. Yeah.
Is it like plain or vanilla or
No, just plain.
plain Greek yogurt? And how would people order it?
I've been developing a website. At first it was very manual through WhatsApp, and I would have to do an Excel sheet and like just it'll take me, I don't know, 4 hours to create the route, and we would deliver it. We would deliver the product. We'll take it on Friday to San Jose, deliver it on Sunday for 8 hours, and then drive back to the farm because we had to work on Monday. So it was,
wow.
and that was like every other week for like a year and a half, until we grew to a certain point where we were able to afford a delivery driver. So we would send the product,
which you got on Alibaba because you were able to. So now you got more people, more production. Now,
Yeah.
what do you use to do the route now and the deliveries and scheduling the orders? What do you use? Did you create the website yourself?
Yeah, we've been developing a website where people can order online, and it's like ordering an Uber. So there's a map and a pinpoint, and you just press locate me. The back end of the website grabs the coordinates that the map has, and when all the orders are in, we do renderized route, and it pinpoints a route that goes to each coordinate.
That's incredible.
And the driver has a dashboard, like access to it, and he goes through the route using our system.
Dude, when you discovered this, it was like discovering water in the middle of the desert, probably.
Well, there's programs that do that, and you can pay for it, but they're super expensive. So it's
you bought it on Alibaba for 5 times cheaper because you're really good on Alibaba. Well, that's amazing, man. Tisu Farm making moves. Aurelia and Bernardo. And what else do you so this is produced in the farm in Sabalito. Sabalito is in Alajuela, right?
Sabalito is in Guanacaste.
In Guanacaste. Oh, Sabalito is in Guanacaste, yeah. And you got the people driving the yogurt, but where is it done? I know that your family has a farm near Sabalito.
Yeah, we have so we built an infrastructure completely separate to get the health permit. At first, we started doing it in the kitchen, and dude, the guest room turned into a refrigerator room. So when
like Breaking Bad.
when I went to sleep, I would just hear zzzz. And then at 7 a.m., Aurelia's employee would walk in, regardless if you're showered, had breakfast, if you're still sleeping, who gives a shit? She would just walk in and to start because production started, like it's day's work.
Yeah.
And to get the health permit, you can't produce things in home, like at your house, obviously, because of cross-contamination and other details. So we build a small processing plant for dairy. That's where we do the yogurt now. And we're actually about to place fat-free yogurt in the grocery stores.
Wow.
So it's exciting times. And the website has allowed us to introduce more products. So she now has ricotta cheese. She does labneh, which is another type of cheese. Gnocchis from ricotta and granola. So with the website, we just launch a product and our whole audience reaches it.
And what's the website?
It's tisufarm.com.
Oh, I love it. And one of my favorite things that you guys have done in the recent past was the Santos Schooly Airbnb. And can you give some context about this? So it's like a paradise bus Airbnb apartment in the middle of nowhere with the best view ever. Can you explain it better than I just did? And where did the idea come from?
So when we used to travel a lot, right? In Asia, we traveled tons. And when we relocated back, slowly we started to put roots in Costa Rica. I built my wood shop. Aurelia started her dairy processing plant. And our work started to limiting our traveling.
Yeah.
And we've always wanted to drive down South America for 6 months. I've always wanted to go from Chile to Alaska and do the whole trip.
Yeah.
Driving. And it was just impossible because of work and circumstances. So a law recently passed that buses over 20 years of circulation had to be put out of service. And tons of old buses were in junkyards.
Wow.
So instead of doing that whole trip, we thought, why not just still do the transformation of the bus? Because for us, it's fun. Like ever since I was a kid, I would like to put things apart and build things. So why not bring that bus to us and put it in the farm? So we purchased the bus, we placed it, and the next day, the president closed the borders because of COVID. So I have this old bus straight from the junkyard sitting in front of my office, painted yellow and rust. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Like now I have like this shitty bus like right in front.
How much is a bus? How much is a bus to buy on a junkyard? Like $300?
A little bit more, like 500, but yeah, fairly inexpensive. The bus is the cheapest part of the whole construction.
Nice.
And we were so uncertain because COVID just hit. Costa Rica closed the borders. I have this yellow old bus in my eye view when I'm working, now I used to have like this amazing view and now I have a bus there and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I left it there for 2 months because we were uncertain if tourists were coming back, if it was going to rent. Are we going to put our savings into this and transform it? And then what? What if it doesn't rent? Like we're in the middle of nowhere. Like our nearest grocery store is 20 minutes away. We don't have restaurants or bars in the area. Like we're very remote.
Yeah.
2 months later, we talk and we're like, fuck it. Let's just do it and see what happens. So we started construction. We had 6 months until we finish it. And the last two, I decided to close the shop and just dedicate it to the bus.
Wow.
So that we can list it in January of the following year.
On Airbnb.
And on Airbnb, yes. And luckily, it has had such positive response that we thought we were going to have a space of our own to just chill, and it's not rented out. And we had to book a night last year because we've only slept there once.
That's insane. Alejandro has stayed there a couple times, right? A night?
He came here and stayed for a night or two. And it's been like a great success that we are thinking of building an additional 2 more this year.
Wow. We're gonna include links to the Airbnb just because people need to see it. And you had a Instagram video too. When I promote the episode, I'm gonna be putting it everywhere because it's like one of those TikTok videos where you see like something that is horrible and then it's turned into something beautiful. It's like an emotional video because you see the process, you see the final thing. You just want to go there, chill, read a book, and have some coffee. It's like perfect. And how many? Can you describe how big it is? Like it has a place to shower, a bedroom, and a couple seats. How big is it?
It's 35 square meters. It has a queen size bed and a private, like a 1-bedroom apartment. It has a stove, full kitchen, basically, and an amazing bathroom with the view.
Yeah.
It has a big deck, 2 glass doors that open into the deck. So you end up having like a large living room outdoor area. It has a pull-out couch that turns into another queen-size bed. So 4 people can sleep, or a family, a couple and a kid or 2. It has a workstation. Internet is very stable. And you have cows that come visit you in the morning. Because of the dairy farm.
Dude, you're going to turn Sabalito into like a touristic destination, like a tourist destination, because you got the bus, the Santos Schooly. Then you got the dairy tour. You can go eat yogurt. You can see the cows. Then you can go see the wood. How do you call it? The wood studio? The wood
shop.
The wood shop. And like, what else are you gonna build? You're gonna build like a canopy place. What else do you have in mind?
No, dude, it was amazing to see how the bus actually had such a positive response because people land in San Jose.
Yeah.
And their first night is in the bus.
Really?
They drive to the bus when they land. Like we thought it was going to be a step over when people are driving from La Fortuna to Rio Celeste or to Monteverde because we're right in the center and like, okay, well, why not? Like that road has a lot of traffic. So they'll just sleep over, spend the night and continue their traveling. But we never thought that the bus was going to turn into an attraction itself.
Yeah.
So people are landing and just coming to the bus or we've had guests that had to organize their whole Costa Rican trip based on the availability of the bus because they really want to come to the bus.
What's the longest that somebody has stayed on the bus?
7 days.
That's incredible. You know what I would love to do? Like this is the type of thing that creatives. I would love to just stay there for like 7 days and just write and create, because this is one of those places where you can only do what you're doing at the moment because it's just the bus. Obviously, you have internet, but it's in a remote place with a beautiful view. Cows come visit. And it forces you to be present and just look at the view, reflect, look back, acknowledge, be grateful, have a cup of coffee, read a book. So I would just like to go there and do nothing. And I think maybe that's what a lot of people do. Where do people come from? Like Europe, Canada, Argentina?
Everywhere. everywhere. We've had from the States, Europe, we've had locals come in also. So it's just everywhere. Mainly, I would say Americans would be like 60% and Europeans 30%, 10% locals.
And this could be really good because you got the yogurt, you got the wood, and slowly you're starting to delegate to the point that you could have 3 or 4 and somebody doing the yogurt. You leave a couple projects for the wood shop in process, and then you guys can go from Argentina to Canada in a motorcycle, and now you have your empire. And this, but what I like is that everything has its own little meaning and everything has its organic component. You're adding value to people, you're adding value to society. And what I love the most, which I like to think that I do that with my projects as well, it's a reflection of Bernardo and Aurelia, It's not like you're, I don't know, doing like mortgages or something that you don't even care about. Like these are things that you care about and that you have become really good at it, which means that you can delegate, which means that you can then start to enjoy life more. Because the first years as an entrepreneur, even like I'm 5 years in now and it's still a grind, But the more and more you can delegate, you can continue to enjoy and have free time to do more other things that mean a lot to you. And the other thing that you started is Costa Rica Mill that you opened 2.5 years ago, a company that exports wood. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was completely unexpected how that happened.
You were on Alibaba and they were like,
It was basically, I can see how that's going to turn into a joke on your on one of your shows.
Yes.
I was in Instagram and I see this woodworker in the States posting Guanacaste table on a hotel. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And he said like Guanacaste, Costa Rica wood. Wow. So I comment, hey man, how's it going? Are you sourcing wood from Guanacaste? And he answers, yeah. So I private message him, so where are you buying it from? He's like, LA? And I'm like, why are you buying it from LA? And he's like, well, that's where my distributor is. I'm like, well, dude, I'm a furniture designer down here in Guanacaste, and I can help you get like Guanacaste if you want. And he's like, sure, like bring me an offer or whatever. I'm like, well, how much are you paying? And he's like, X amount. I'm like, well, you're overpaying. Like that's insane how much it is. So I told him like, you know what, like this, I'll find a solution for you. And I sent him a contact of the source that I was buying it from, just to be friendly and they can like figure things out. Apparently the distributor was buying from that source as well. So my source that I gave him wasn't able to sell or wouldn't sell to him. Right. So now I created this whole conflict because the distributor in LA is pissed because his client is going behind his back straight to the source.
Cutting the middleman.
And and now the distributor doesn't want to sell to him and he would. And I'm like, hey, I'm talking to my source and I'm like, hey, if you don't sell to him, then I'm going to solve his problem because he needs wood. And they were like, no, we won't sell to him. I'm sorry, blah, blah. We can't go over our distributor. So I told Doc, I'm like, all right, man, I'll harvest the logs and I'll ship you a container for half the price of what you're paying. So 6 months later, I have the slabs. We purchase the trees, harvest them, mill them, take them to the kiln, dry them, take pictures of them. He send it to them, and he's like, dude, I love it. I want X amount.
A
And
year.
we ship our first container.
What?
And we cut his biggest overhead in half.
And now, and now the middleman is like, all the
Dude,
other.
it was such a drama. He was going to fly down here and talk to me.
What?
He was so pissed. I
And-
took his biggest client.
and how did that conversation end
With
with the LA person?
oh, he never called me in person. This was just like messages through Doc. But he never showed up or anything. And I mean, in the States, Guanacaste board foot goes for $18 per board foot. Doc was paying around 12, 11, which was a better price, right? And I offered him at $4.99. So it was more than half. It's like
You
almost.
you are his Alibaba. Oh my God, the business. You know what I love? That the more you do this entrepreneur life and you learn and you run into walls and you fail, you don't fail because you still retain that knowledge, which you'll then take for your next ventures and your next ventures and your next ventures, something that is pretty much specific knowledge. Like you can't learn in a book, you have to do it. And when somebody asks you, hey, can you explain what you do? You're just like, man, I don't know what I do. It's just like, I've done so many things that you have to be there, you know? And that's why you're killing it with all these ventures. Okay, we got to the almost the end of it. We're gonna go through the rapid fire questions. As soon as you hear it, answer the first thing that comes to mind. It's pretty easy, but if you need to take a couple more seconds to think about it or to elaborate, you can do it. Okay. Complete this statement. I lose track of time when I
Focus.
What have you done in the past 3 months that makes you feel proud?
Kite surf.
If you could invite 3 people for dinner, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Alvar Alto.
Who's
He's
that?
a Finnish designer.
Okay.
And my grandfather.
Love it. If you could study with any expert in the world, who would you study with?
Study with any expert.
Like be an intern of them. Shadow them.
I'm not sure. That's a hard question.
Alvar Alto, maybe?
I would look more into someone with more business knowledge.
Okay, nice. What book have you recommended the most to others?
No, I haven't. I don't know.
Okay, you can say pass.
Pass.
What opportunity has come your way that you are glad you turned down?
Selling ecopoxy in Costa Rica.
What's ecopoxy?
Ecopoxy is you know how those river tables are filled with epoxy?
No.
You know what river tables are?
No.
So there are 2 slabs with the organic shape of the board inwards, and then you
Okay.
put resin in the center, so it looks like a river.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
So there is this epoxy that dries really fast, and it's eco-friendly. It doesn't put fumes, and it's a big Canadian brand that has gone really big worldwide. And a friend of mine asked me to go in business with him, and things didn't turn out. And I'm glad that I didn't pursue it.
Didn't. Okay. What lesson took you the longest to learn?
Patience.
What are three things that you've always wanted to do that are still on your bucket list?
To go from Chile to Alaska.
Yeah. Okay, that's one. What else?
Skydiving, which I'm completely afraid of heights, so I'm procrastinating on doing.
Okay.
And to have kids.
I love it. And didn't you bungee jump?
Yeah.
I think I've seen you. How did you do it if you're afraid of heights, or is this a new thing?
No, I've always been. Dude, after I bungee jumped, I came up, they pulled me up from the bridge, and I was like shaking of adrenaline.
Okay, if you had 6 months left to live, how would you spend them?
With family.
Okay, and the last question. Everybody gets this question on the podcast. If we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Bernardo Urbina's life?
More buses.
Yes. A fleet of 25 buses in Sabalito. I love it, man. Dude, this has been incredible. When we go to Costa Rica with my wife and Liam, we're gonna go visit you guys. We're gonna go to Sabalito. We're gonna go and stay at the bus. Hopefully we'll find some space, or hopefully you'll have 3 or 4 by then. So we'll be able to stay for at least a couple nights. Hopefully there won't be any pit bulls outside of this house, this bus, so that we are not scared.
There will be, man. Look,
and let's see what you got. Oh wow, I love it. What's the name?
This is Mina.
Oh, this is Mina that I met?
No, there's another one. She came with the bus.
Oh wow.
We got her. We adopted her from a junkyard.
And how does Mina get along with the other one?
Oh, amazing. She was supposed to be a guard dog, but she is a little princess and won't lay on ceramic floor.
I love it. I love it. And what was the name of the other dog that was there?
China,
who passed away, right?
Yeah.
Well, we dedicate this episode to China. And big hug to you. Big hug to Aurelia, to your mom, to your dad, to Gregorio, Sebastian, your grandma. It seems like your family is a big entrepreneurial family, right? Like you got all these ideas. Your grandma founded the school that we went to.
Right.
And I remember going to sleepovers at your house when I was a kid, playing Nintendo or Nintendo 64, just having the greatest time with you and Antonio and everybody. Dude, so proud of your journey. Really proud of how far you've come and where you're going to take it. So happy that you came to visit with Aurelia. You know that you have a home here in Toronto. And continue, man. You're doing incredible things.
Appreciate it, man. No, thank you so much for having us on, man. And we look forward to hosting you when you come visit Costa Rica.
Will do, man. Will do. If I have any questions, or if any of the listeners have any questions on Alibaba, you can call Bernardo Urbina decide. Ladies and gentlemen, Bernardo Urbina and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer podcast. Arrivederci, my people.